For my artist, I picked Vincent van Gogh. I picked him because when I was younger and my sister used to live with us, she had his drawings all over her room. So ever since then, his art has always kept me interested. Van Gogh was born on March 30th, 1853 and died in July 29th, 1890. He lived with both his parents, and he was actually born exactly 1 year after his stillborn brother. He was the oldest of six children. He had two younger brothers and three younger sisters. He spent most of his adult life with his brother Theo, and he never married or had any children. He did propose to a Eugene lawyer who rejected his proposal. He began his artistic career in 1880 when he moved to Brussels. Having no experience, he took lessons on his own and read books like Travaux de Champs by Jean-François Millet and Cours de Dessin by Charles Baudelaire. He created what many consider his first masterpiece in 1885 called Potato Eaters. And Theo, who was a art dealer and Van Gogh's younger brother, thought that the painting would not be liked in Paris, where he was living, because of impressionists who had become the trend at the time. Then, in 1886, he actually moved in with his brother in Paris. And then in 1888, he moved to the Yellow House. There, Van Gogh bought paint rather than food and began eating paint and drinking turpentine. One day, Theo paid Gauguin to move in with Van Gogh, and he did. And there was a problem. Van Gogh and Gauguin argued constantly, and one day he stormed out, and Van Gogh followed him. Gauguin said that he turned around and he saw Van Gogh standing behind him with a razor. They stared at each other, and then Van Gogh left. He was found at a bar and approached a prostitute and said, "Keep this object carefully," and it was his ear that he had cut it off. He then went to the hospital and was accompanied by his brother, and in 1889 he moved to St. Paul de Mausole Asylum. He left the asylum in 1990 and created Church out of Walls. He shot himself in the chest in July 1990 and died 2 days later. Here on the left is Church out of Walls that he created in 1990, and on the right is the Potato Eaters, his famous masterpiece. Post-Impressionism. It began in 1886 and ended in 1895. At the time Van Gogh was living in Paris, Post-Impressionism had taken over France, and Van Gogh became part of the art movement in France. They focused on symbolism and personal meaning when created the art, relied on the bond between color and shape, which is what captured Van Gogh's attention when he moved to Paris. Some famous post-impressionists are Paul Cézanne, who created the large Baudelaire, and Edvard Munch, who created the screen. Here on the left is the screen, and on the right is the large Baudelaire. And as you can tell, there's a bit of similarity between these two pieces and this piece here that Van Gogh created. And now his art. The main elements in his drawings towards the end of his career were color and shape. He also tended to use variation and balance in his pieces. His art employed art of delight, but also art of self-expression, because the art he drew represented his spiritual and emotional states. Today, his art is criticized by the expressive theory approach, And I agree with this because his art was always a way to express himself and emotions, and he constantly used his own style of drawing with a mixture of what he had learned. Throughout his career, he completed 1,300 sketches, watercolors and drawings, and 860 oil paintings. Back in the day, unfortunately, Van Gogh was not very recognized. He actually only sold one painting in his whole life, and it was the Red Vineyard painting for 400 francs. Today, of course, his art is more recognized, and most of these pieces actually sell